Welcome to the Wrestling Show. Today's video will be quite interesting and maybe informative. But first, to keep you all up to date, I am currently only 9,265 subscribers away from surpassing Bill and Doug. Now that number is higher than last time, even though I gained a few more subscribers because Bill and Doug get like 30 subscribers a week or something. So yeah, it's gonna be hard. Okay, let's get on to the topic at hand. Kind of forgotten talent, underrated talent, whatever word you want to insert into there. I've got two wrestlers that I think need to be spotlighted, and of course there's many more, and you can put your thoughts in the comment box. And then after these two, I'm going to kind of do my general summarization of why I think certain people are forgotten. So let's get it underway. Mildred Burke. This is a lady wrestler. Her career spanned from 1936 to 1956. That's a rough estimate. I think it began in 34, but whatever. Definitely not one of the first women wrestlers, but one of the more mainstream women wrestlers. Back then, women's wrestling was kind of how it is now in a lot of promotions, just kind of a side act. At least even in WWE, it's a little more respected than it was back then. She married one of the promoters, Bill Wolf, who Bill Wolf and her also helped kind of get Fabulous Moolah on the track, who's always credited with being a pioneer in women's wrestling, which she was, but I believe Mildred was also a pioneer. She beat dozens and dozens of dudes. Of course, that's not mentioned. They probably just been like, oh, that never happened. And of course, she beat women. She was an NWA's women's champion. She also founded the WWWA, which is kind of like the NWA was. It was just like a coalition of promotions, kind of like a brand name. And she trained Bertha Faye. We all know Bertha Faye. WWF, probably most likely. That's how we know her. You know, she was with Harvey Whippleman and their whole... Didn't she wear like polka dots or whatever? She also trained Monster Ripper and Rhonda Singh. And of course, the Fabulous Moolah, she kind of helped out, so she didn't train her, but... And she's in a few Hall of Fames, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and others. You know, she... Not to be, sexist or anything, but she didn't look that bad. You know, she looked good. She had skills, you know. It was a tough time back then, heck. For women and even dudes, it was hard to get into wrestling. Because, getting sidetracked a little, let's breeze through this. But basically in the 40s, 50s, 60s, heck, 70s probably. If you wanted to get into wrestling, not only did you train, but initially I've read stories where they'll like break your arm, or you know, they'll kind of break something, maybe not your arm, but or a finger or something. And then if you come back, they'll be like, oh, he really wants this. You know, nowadays when they train you, there's still some liberties going around, but it's not quite that extreme. They're not going to break your arm on purpose and be like, haha, I scared him away from the business. Just my thoughts. Hard times back then. Gorgeous George, the original Ric Flair in my opinion, and probably everyone's opinion. He influenced Billy Graham, Ric Flair, countless other wrestlers. He's also influenced media figures like Liberance and Muhammad Ali. You know, as far as the showmanship and how to interact with people and how to get over on, because you know, 40s and 50s, the television was becoming widespread, excuse me. And yeah, in order to get recognized, you had to show something off, because you know, he was the originator of using theme music. Randy Savage, I believe, uses a version of his theme music. It was basically orchestra music, kind of. What was it called? I think the title was like Pomp and Pageantry or something. But basically, it wasn't I'm not quite sure, but definitely one of the first wrestlers ever to use theme music. At least as far as recorded in history. Also an AWA champion, best known for his gimmick, really. I mean, he had good skills, but he was basically known for his long entrances, his robes, his curly hair, just his mannerisms, and how thought he was better than everybody. So that irritated people, you know, the common hardworking man and stuff. But yeah, Gorgeous George. I definitely couldn't really find many matches on YouTube of him, but I believe I watched. It was somewhere. It was like an AWA, you know, from the vault kind of thing session, and they showed some match highlights of him. It was pretty funny and good. So yeah, I'm sure there's obviously others you can put on. There's probably some that are just stopped wrestling or recently wrestled that are already being forgotten, you know, or underwritten. You know, Masawa just passed away, but even before he passed away, it seemed like over here he wasn't really mentioned, even though he was like the Bret Hart in Japan ×2. But yeah, lots of great workers have been forgotten. And I think it's because we, you know, whether wrestling, baseball, football, any sport, you just want to gravitate towards the one that most pleases you, I guess. You know, which one you connect with the most. You know, so if it's Ric Flair, no knock on Ric Flair. He had a lot, but obviously there are wrestlers that had more skills, you know, that could wrestle better. But, you know, Flair had it all. You know, he had all the factors. But the two mentions that I made at the beginning of the video, Mildred Burke and Gorgeous George, certainly Gorgeous George had it. You know, and Mildred Burke, you know, one of the, you know, top female wrestlers at the time. You know, they certainly had the factors, but I think in their case, it's just been so many decades have passed that they've been forgotten. But I don't know, that's kind of weird because Luthez and Bruno Sammartino, somewhat from the same area, maybe a decade or so later, you know, they're still mentioned a lot. So I'm not sure why these other wrestlers that are just as talented are kind of just forgotten and never mentioned. It's just weird. You know, I believe that each decade it seems like we move it forward, that nowadays in a lot of videos nobody thinks wrestling, you know, happened before Hogan. Like, Hogan started wrestling. It always seems like that. They'll be like, oh, Hogan, and they'll talk about Hogan, but it seems like wrestling doesn't exist before, you know, 1984 to a lot of people, including myself a lot of times. But yeah, by and large there was a lot of good stuff even back in the 50s. You have to dig through it, though, because there's a lot of those boring matches, 2 hours long, where all they do is headlocks. And that's a little much. That's a little too much wrestling. But that was just the style. So yeah, wrestling has obviously changed over the decades. But I think the passion and the hard work ethic never changes, you know. I don't think that someone that really enjoyed what they did back, you know, in the 50s is much different than, you know, the 2000s. You know, because if you got it, you got it. That doesn't change much. So yeah. So thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time.